The simplest way to outline a character-driven novel is to start with one question. Then the answer to that question becomes the foundation for your entire plot, so that every scene you write is tied to your character's growth, development, or downfall. You write them more consistently, you create a story driven by them. The one question you have to answer first is, what does my character learn by the end of the story that they don't know at the start? Once you have the answer to that question, you're going to break your story into 3 parts. Part 1 is all about them not knowing the answer to that question. Part 2 is where they start wondering about the answer. They're more aware of it. Maybe there's some merit to it. And then if you're writing a happy ending, part 3 is where they realize the answer to that question. And if you're writing a tragic ending, part 3 is where they don't realize it. Let's see how this all works out with The Giver. Let's say I'm outlining The Giver and I ask myself, what is one thing that Jonas learns at the end of the story that he does not know at the beginning? And maybe I land on something like a life without memories, without emotions, meaningful choices, a life without pain isn't worth living. To simplify it down, let's just say a life without pain isn't worth living. Well, actually, let's specify it a little bit more too. A life without pain sacrifices real humanity. Let's say that that is what I start with. Now, let's outline his story. At the opening, Jonas doesn't believe that a life without pain sacrifices real humanity. At the midpoint, Jonas starts to wonder, does a life without pain sacrifice real humanity? Was I wrong and there's merit to this? By the ending, Jonas is making choices based on that new belief. So now let's see if this structure holds up in what Lois Lowry actually wrote. At the opening, Jonas thinks that a life without pain is the way to go. He might not be saying this to anyone. He might not be thinking in his head, this is what's true, but we see him living into that. On page 2, then all of the citizens had been ordered to go into the nearest building and stay there. Immediately, the rasping voice through the speakers had said. Instantly, obediently, Jonas had dropped his bike on its side on the path behind his family's dwelling. So he's in his normal life, following the rules, believing what people are telling him to believe, doing what he's being told to do. But we also see hints about Jonas's openness to change in this beginning. On page 9, Jonas sighed. This evening he almost would have preferred to keep his feelings hidden, but it was, of course, against the rules. On page 30, though the feelings were confused, he thought that he had liked the feelings that his mother had called stirrings. He remembered upon waking, he had wanted to feel the stirrings again. So throughout the beginning, there are hints that Jonas is open to change. He'd rather do things differently sometimes. He's questioning very subtly the way that things are. But he chooses not to act on that because he doesn't yet know that a life without pain sacrifices real humanity. The way they do things in this community, that is the way. At the midpoint, Jonas receives the most intense memory, the most painful memory that he's received so far. And that makes him question what he believes. It makes him reflect on the central question. On page 121, it says he did not want to go back. He didn't want the memories, didn't want the honor, didn't want the wisdom, didn't want the pain. He's reacting to that event based on the fact that he does not yet know what he needs to know. His belief is still the old belief, but he's wrestling with it. He's getting closer, but he's not there yet, and we see it in this line. Although he had, through the memories, learned about the pain of loss and loneliness, now he gained, too, an understanding of solitude and joy. He says, I liked the feeling of love. I wish we still had that. Of course, I do understand that it wouldn't work very well, and that it's much better to be organized the way we are now. I can see that it was a dangerous way to live. So he's going back and forth. He's like, well, this part kind of stinks, but I also see the value in how I've been living and thinking before. So he's at the midpoint, a turning point in the story where he's wrestling with old belief versus new belief. And at the end of that chapter, we see the change in him start. For the first time, Jonas did not take his pill. Something within him, something that had grown there through the memories, told him to throw the pill away. Come on, it's so good. It's so good. This book rocks. Okay. By the end of the story, we see Jonas's behavior shifting because of his new belief. He's learned his character premise, he's realized that a life without pain sacrifices real humanity, and now he's acting differently because of that. And that's why he takes little Gabriel and leaves the community. Every major scene in this story moves Jonas from old belief to new belief, from lesson not learned to lesson learned. And as he changes, the reasoning behind his decisions changes, and that's what drives the plot. So in this kind of story, the protagonist does learn what they need to learn by the end, and it's what we would call maybe a more positive, happy ending, even though the ending of this isn't necessarily going to make you feel great, but the character has changed in a positive way. If you're ready to go from idea to character-driven outline with the same steps we did today, hop into my Story Milestones course and we'll get you sorted. And I'll talk to you next time. Happy writing.